Well, good morning and welcome to Brekkie with the Guy Who Sews. My name is Sean if you're new to the channel, and I have a very special guest today. It is Fee from Pinfeathers and Gullyfluff. I hope I got the name correct. Did I get it right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, I am terrible of names, so if it's anything over two syllables, I have a really hard time. But she is a reasonably new YouTuber. I've been watching her videos from about the start. I think she has 5 or 6 episodes in so far, and I thought today would be a really good day to bring her in, interview her a little bit, so we all get to know her a little bit better. She has approximately 25 subscribers at the moment, and I would love it if we can bump that number up a little bit over the weekend. Unfortunately, I will not be here during the premiere today. I am having a family day with my family, so I thought it'd be fun to have an interview while I'm out. So let's just go ahead and have a chat to Fee and just learn a little bit more about her. So let's start off and just ask you, what is your first quilting or crafting related memory or experience?
Um, it was, let's see, a couple of things happened all at the same time. When I was living, I was in I had just gotten out of the military and had just gotten married, and I needed something to do when my husband was at sea. He was a submariner. And so I started making one-of-a-kind cloth dolls. And then I started hanging around at this quilt shop that had these grab bags where they would just put in scraps of fabric. And I was using those as, bits and pieces for the clothes that the dolls would wear and their shoes and stuff. And then I just started hanging around in there more and started picking up some magazines. And that was when, and most people listening to this channel are probably not old enough to remember this person, but Patricia Campbell came out with a book where she did this Jacobean vine. It was a grapevine, and it was just so beautiful, and it was on a black background, and that got me kind of hooked. At the same time, I found an old quilt at a secondhand store, and I just thought it was so beautiful, but the fabric was getting very worn from having been washed a lot, and I knew it was like on the edge of falling apart, but I loved it so much I brought it home. And so yeah, after that I decided I wanted to make my mom a quilt, and so I designed and made one myself.
That is just such a fascinating story. I loved hearing that you just kind of fell into it. So I
Yeah.
was wondering if you are self-taught or if you've been to classes. Does anyone else in your family quilt? I'm assuming the answer to the family is no, but
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
Well, what was interesting is my grandmother was actually Amish, but she had not made any quilts, which was astonishing to me. She actually left her Ordnung when she went on her Rumspringa when she was a teenager, and she just never came back. She got married and decided to live outside of that community, and so she actually started quilting roughly around the same time I did. And so, we were kind of learning together. But I am self-taught. I did teach myself how to do it. I mean, I had an old Singer machine that was from 1964, and I had it my entire life because my mom bought it when my sister was born. And so I just decided, okay, I'm just going to try this. And so I drew out my design on graph paper and made that quilt. And my mom had it hanging on her wall for ages.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So basically it's you and your grandmother are the only two in your family that quilt?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. It's kind of similar in my family. I quilt. My mother did a little bit of sewing, and my sister quilts on occasion. But that's really about it for us. So what would you say was your favorite thing about quilting overall?
Um, I like during the process, you mean?
Just anything. Like, do you find it relaxing? Do you like turning pieces of fabric into something beautiful? Do you like the process? Do you like the finished projects? Like, what would you say is your favorite thing? Just
I think that I have lots of different favorites, but I love choosing the fabrics and, making the colors meld together. And I especially love the some of the fabrics that are coming out in colors that we haven't seen in quilting fabric before. And I'm super excited about that. I also love, I know this seems silly, but I love the cutting process. Everybody loves certain sounds, and I love the sound of fabric being cut with scissors. So I always do my cutting by hand because I just love that so much. And I also love like the process of, I think the binding, when I do the binding, I love that because I know I'm almost done and it's going to be on the wall soon. And because I always hang them on the wall for a little while before I decide what I'm going to do with them.
Oh, nice. And it's funny that you mentioned cutting and binding, because that is the two things that I hear over and over and over again that people dislike the most. So
Oh, really?
yes. I mean, I love binding for the same reason you do, because you're 95% of the way there, you're almost home. It's the light at the end of the tunnel for me. I don't mind binding. I don't mind cutting either, but I'm just slow at it. But yeah, if you ever offer the cutting service, I think you'd probably have about 100 of my viewers right now knocking on your door saying, "Okay, can you do it for me?" Because I hear a lot that's not something people enjoy. So it's fun to hear that there are folks out there that do enjoy that aspect. All right. So, what is your favorite type of quilt to make? Do you have a go-to pattern or block, or do you just like? I know you've talked about designing your own a lot.
I do a lot of designing on my own, but there are certain quilts that I just absolutely adore. And one of them is the log cabin quilt. I love those so much. And part of it is because I have an obsession with how quilts were used in the Underground Railroad. And and log cabins played a huge part in that. So, I mean, they had codes and stuff. And so now I usually make at least one a year.
And it's interesting you talk about the log cabin quilt, and it's by accident we didn't speak about this beforehand.
Yeah.
But I've heard people talk. I know exactly what a log cabin is. I've never made one, but I mean, I've probably heard about 4 or 5 people in the last week mentioning log cabins and how much they enjoy them. So I think I really need to get out and look in my scrap bucket really soon and just go ahead and make a block or two, because I'm kind of ashamed to admit that I haven't made one yet. Like, am I a real quilter because I haven't made a log cabin block? Let me know, like in the comments and in the chat, if I'm a real quilter or not, because I think that's like one of those things you're supposed to do before you become a real quilter, right?
That's right.
Okay, so apparently I'm not a real quilter, so I apologize to everybody for that. So it's funny, but no, I would like to try it really, really soon. So yeah, I'll go find a nice pattern and get started on that really, really soon. Kind of breezed over this a little bit, but do you prefer to design your own patterns or follow a pattern that's been written for you?
I actually prefer designing my own. I mean, a lot of patterns when they're written, we all get certain ideas in our head about what we think we're talking about. And so when you write it down as a quilt pattern, it may not translate when I read it and then make a quilt that goes with it. I have one quilt right now that is driving me insane because the pattern is not written very well. And so I had some flying geese strips that turned out way too short because of the way that the thing is written. So now I have to add things and figure it out anyway. So I'm kind of designing my own quilt, even though I bought that one, so I prefer, if I find something that's super beautiful that I really want to make that quilt, then I'll go ahead and buy the pattern. But for the most part, I design my own.
Nice. And I think a pattern in a lot of respects is kind of like a recipe when you're cooking. Like, you don't have to follow it 100%. You can add to it, you can subtract from it if you spatially minded and you're halfway decent at math. I remember I made a darkson quilt for my sister a few years ago for my nephew, and I loved some of the pattern, but some of the blocks, but it wasn't quite going to work together. So I just kind of mixed it up and made it my own, and actually sent a picture to the designer and said, "Hey, this is what I did with it." And she was like, "This is stunning." And now, like, my picture of the quilt's actually on her, like, one of her things on the sale, like on her listing. I told her, I said, "You're more than welcome to use it." Like, so yeah. Yeah, I
Great.
think it's good too, that you can always, like, you don't have to follow it 100%. If you find parts of the pattern that you like and you want to do it your own thing, go for it. You know, the court police will not come chase you down if you do that, I promise. And if they do, let me know and I'll come talk to them.
Okay.
Okay, so do you have any other hobbies or interests or that sort of thing outside of quilting?
Oh yeah. Um, I since my mom never quilted and I didn't learn that kind of stuff when I was a kid, I did learn other things. She taught me to crochet when I was really young. We sewed our own clothes. And but one of the things that carried over into adulthood is cross stitch. I do a lot of cross stitching, and some of the patterns now are just so beautiful. It's so fun. It is time consuming. And I have way too many patterns for cross stitch stuff that I'm never going to finish them before I die. So there's that. It's very addictive. And I also I run. So I try to run every day. It doesn't always work, but you know, I do that. I also I read a ton, as you can see. So I have, yeah, I have, this isn't even the half of it. We're getting ready to move. We're going to be moving in July. And so I had all these stacks of books on the floor because we didn't have enough space in the bookshelves. So it's all now in books in the garage, in boxes in the garage, ready to move. But there's probably 3 times as much as this stuff, and it's frightening.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I saw the books there, and I think the only place I've seen that many books, and you're saying 3 times that amount, would be at Thomas Jefferson's house, up there in Harrisonburg, Virginia. Like, you walk into the house, and it's like a whole room, like 3 walls are filled with books. And you know, obviously this is more modern than that, but that's kind of the
Yeah.
vibe that I get when I look at your bookshelf. I was like, yeah, this looks. I can't pronounce the name of the house. I always get it wrong, but it's the one there in Harrisonburg, Virginia, where he lived. So
Monticello.
yes, that's the yeah. I always pronounce it wrong, and my wife corrects me because she's a history major. So you know, so I've given up trying. Yeah, beautiful part of the country. If you ever get a chance to go see the house and the gardens and that sort of thing, definitely do so. I mean, for me, it's a couple of hours up the road, so it's nice and
Yeah.
easy.
Cool.
Okay, so would you like to tell us a little bit about your favorite quilts or quilts that you have made in the past, just real briefly?
Let's see. I designed the first quilt I designed and made myself was in Southwestern inspired, and I really loved that one. It had like the cow skulls on it and chili peppers and stuff. And unfortunately, I gave it to my mom, and she had it on the wall for years. And then when she was getting ready to move, the most recent time, someone stole it. So I'm trying to find some similar fabrics so I can make it again. I want that quilt back. But I think my favorite is I made a log cabin quilt that I was having a lot of trouble with at first. And now when I took it apart and redid it, I love the finished product. And it was just a log cabin. It's mostly purple. It's great.
It's awesome. Yeah, and I mean, I think it asking that question is always difficult because I could come back and ask you the same question in a year or two, and the answer's probably going to change. I remember
Right.
doing a project last year with a bunch of other people, and I asked them for the quilt, and that was the thing I kept getting told over and over again. Like, yeah, it's hard because that answer always changes. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I love. Yeah, you brought that log cabin again. Like, I'm definitely gonna have to go out there and make a log cabin really, really soon. So what are you currently working on at the moment? Do you have one project going on? Do you have multiple like I do?
Oh, I have tons of projects going on at the same time because I have a terrible, terrible habit of when something is wrong or is difficult, then I will put it aside. So I have little shoe boxes, plastic shoe boxes that I keep my works in progress in, and I have 11 of those right now. And I just finished a pink log cabin that is going to be the first one that I'm going to try and quilt myself. I usually have other people do the quilting.
Okay, I was going to ask you that question later on, but you've already. But that's fine. It's one less I have to worry about remembering. So, Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's bad though to put it away when it's bad. Sometimes
Yeah.
like I do the exact same thing. I make a mistake, and especially if it's late at night or I'm tired, I just put it to the side because I mean I can sit there and get frustrated at it and get upset, and then lose my sojo altogether, or I can just move on to something else. And then there's other times where I want something simple, where it's mindless, and I can just sit there and sew and relax. And sometimes I want to do something a little more complicated. So I
Yeah.
notice monogamous quilters out there work on one project from start to finish, and if that's how you work best, I think that's wonderful. But I don't think there should be that negative stigmatism that sometimes we give ourselves
Yeah.
for having multiple projects. So at the end of the day, this is your fun time, your crafting time. You do you. But yeah, I'm definitely in the multiple projects at a time club as well, and a proud member of it. Your first quilt, I think we talked about this. That was the Southwestern one, and I was going to
Yeah.
ask if you still have it, but unfortunately not. But
No.
it will be fun to see you recreate that. Hopefully you'll show
Yeah.
it on the channel as well. I think that'd be a lot of fun to see.
Well, I
Um,
started collecting the fabric, and I do have one piece with chili peppers on it, so
okay,
I'm
that's
getting closer.
is it like a black one with red chili peppers
Yes.
on it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think I've seen, if it's not that one, something very, very similar to it in my local quilt shop. So if that's the case and you need more, just let me know and I might be able to run out there and
Okay.
grab some.
Okay.
I think it's like Timeless Treasures.
Yeah, one of those. Yeah.
Yeah, if it's the same one, I haven't seen it, so I mean I could be talking about something totally different, but yeah, it sounds very similar. Do you have any favorite designers or fabric lines that you gravitate towards, or do you just kind of like just pick what you like? I know there's a lot of, like, people like Tula Pink, for instance. Some people enjoy certain lines, some just grab whatever looks pretty. So I'm not sure what camp you're in.
I think I'm both. I do have like where I'll just scroll through and see if what I can find that I really, really like. But I absolutely love the brightness of the Tula Pink stuff, and I don't have a lot of it, so I'm gonna have to do one soon, but I really like that they did the whole uh Alice in Wonderland kind of, Queen of Hearts, that kind of thing. That was awesome. I loved that. And don't they have one that's about the sea or something?
I
Can't
think so.
remember.
I'm not the one to talk to about that. I know bits and pieces of it. I've never bought the fabric, mainly because my quilt shop only started stocking it, or I discovered that they had it like a couple of months ago, and I haven't really seen anything that talks to me yet. But I know there's a lot of fans out there, so I'm sure someone in the chat or the comments will be like, "Yeah, this is the line." But yeah, unfortunately, I can't tell you that. But yeah, I mean, I'm kind of the same way. Like there's certain, like, I love, when it comes to solids, I'm a Kona solids man. But other than that, I just go whatever looks pretty and it's going to suit the project that I want to do. That's what I go towards mostly as well. And I know this answer is going to change over the next few months, but would you like to describe your sewing area? Do you have a large area, a small area?
We live in a very strange house. We rent, and the man who built it, it's so funny. Clearly, what he built the house for was the garage, and the house is just there around it. And like, the kitchen is so tiny. And for some reason, the living room is split in half. So when you come in the house, the first thing you see is a hallway that leads to the kitchen, and then there's another hallway. But the um, we use one half as like the living room, where we have the TV and some chairs and a sofa, that kind of thing. Then the other side is the library, and it's a pretty big space. And then I have my work tables in the middle here, and then I have the desk with the sewing machine on it over there. I also have a sewing machine in my bedroom. I got a this just seems so weird when you say it out loud, but everybody has their own quirks. So I bought one of those hospital bed trays that goes over the bed. And I keep my another sewing machine on that, so that if I feel like just sitting in bed and I want to be warm and cozy, I can still sew.
Oh, there you go. I never thought of that, but it doesn't jiggle around too much.
Nope, it doesn't. It has a little bit of give, but it doesn't do it too much. No.
Oh, okay. That's really interesting because I figured those hospital beds, unless you had a super light machine, would probably bounce all over the place. So
Not at
yeah,
all.
okay. That's one of the great unknown mysteries of the world that I've always wanted to know the answer to, but figured I'd never find out. But here we are, finding out all sorts of cool stuff. All right. And so I thought you had a small space. So I don't know if you can answer this question, but I was wondering if you had any tips for anybody that may be sewing in a small space. I know some people have larger rooms and some have some very tiny rooms and are always looking for tips or tricks for anyone that's sewing in a small room. So would you be able to provide any sort of
Sure.
guidance or?
The room that, okay, this used to be just the library, but we have a small bedroom in the back where my original room was, but it's just too tiny. I had to separate it. So I would say a couple of things. One is to keep your space completely organized, because once it starts to get everywhere, you lose control completely. And then it just is a giant mess. But also, I would say keep that room separate from everything else, because even if you have other crafts, put them somewhere else, because it'll get way too confusing and messy. So that's my advice.
That's wonderful advice. Like sometimes it's just simple things like that
Yeah.
that make the world a difference. Thankfully, I have a decent sized room. I kind of turn my dining room into my sewing studio. It's also my home office, so it just kind of serves multiple purposes. But we get the job done, and I try and keep it organized. Some of us in my house might disagree with me, but I do a reasonably decent job. More than 50% of the time. So we'll leave it at that. Let's see. Are there any new techniques that you'd like to learn? Like, for instance, like art quilting, FPP, anything that you haven't done that you'd like to learn?
I have never done paper piecing before. And some of the designs are pretty interesting. So I might try that at some point, but I'm also inventing a technique right now that, if it works, is going to be spectacular and like nobody has ever seen before. So it's kind of that I'm learning a new technique, but I'm teaching myself how to do it. So
Nice. And I always love those people that can think outside the box and try something new. So I'm very interested to see what you have going on. And once you've figured out what it is, hopefully you'll be able to share it with us so we can see all that goodness as well.
mhm.
I just started FPP or foundation paper piecing myself. I'm very, very much a beginner. I bought a legit kit that's probably going to sit on the sidelines for a little while because I just have so much else going on, and I need to get my skills up first. Plus, I have other projects that need to be done first. So, but yeah, I want to try art quilting and some other stuff as well. There, it's just finding the time. Our full-time jobs tend to get in the way of those things,
Yeah.
as you well know as well. So. What motivated you to start your own YouTube channel?
Um, I used to live in New York. I went there to get a master's degree, and that's where I met my husband. And while I was there, we had a YouTube channel on vegan cooking, because I'm vegan, and my husband had a garden in the back that we had. Strangely, in New York, we actually had a backyard. The problem is that the landlord's sister had been living in it previously, and she had paved it over. So we put in a ton of raised beds, and my husband was making all kinds of stuff. Plus, we had an mulberry tree in the backyard. So we could, pick all of that stuff. And so I was doing this vegan channel. And then when we left New York, I closed it, and I kind of missed it. And so since there are now tons and tons and tons of vegan channels out there, I didn't feel like it would be, worth it to do that. But there aren't as many quilting channels. And so I thought that would be a good place to go next. And so I started that. I also have a book channel. So yeah.
It's nice. And yeah, there's definitely room for everybody.
Yeah.
I feel in the quilting world, if you feel like you do your own channel, I think the toughest part, and I hope you agree with me on this, the hardest part is making that first video.
Yeah. Because you
Yeah,
don't know what you're doing or anything.
you don't know what you're doing. Unless you're very, very outgoing, which I am not. You got to be very nervous in front of the camera, but you're not going to. It's like quilting or anything else. You're not going to get better unless you practice. So, yeah, put that first video out there and just see where it goes. And if you need help, exposure, or anything else like that, just let us know. I'll do what I can for you.
Okay,
Um,
thanks.
so, what tips or advice would you have for anyone wanting to start their own channel?
Um, a couple of things. One, be brave and just do it.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter if the first one is crap, they're going to get better. And like you said, you can go back and look at these and know that you're going to be improving. And so you'll laugh at that first one because it was so awkward and weird, and your lighting was wrong and your camera angle is weird and all that other stuff. So you'll learn. What I do is I try to go back and look at some of the earlier ones and see if there was something in there that could have been improved upon. So yeah, it's just, you will improve. Just go ahead and do it. Everybody knows what it's like to, be in front of the camera for the first time or the second time, where you're like, oh, I don't know what to say. And you do the a lot, but it's okay. We're there for you. So just do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, try and improve on something every video. And then just don't worry about those little things, because at the end of the day, our audiences are fantastic. They are so understanding. They are so supportive. I mean, if they were looking for perfection, I would have one view every video. And that would be me. So, so it doesn't have to be perfect, it'll work itself out. What are your long-term goals for yourself in quilting and the channel as well?
I am designing and making lots and lots of quilts right now because I have a pattern launch. I'm starting a pattern company later in the year. It's been pushed back twice already, and that's because I want to have like 4 or 5 months worth of patterns already completed before I actually launch it, in case something goes wrong. And it's going to be a subscription service. So you'll have two quilts per month, or quilt patterns per month. Plus there's going to be something else extra in the package. So something that you can use to quilt with.
Oh, nice. So that'd be something for us to look forward to
Yeah.
later on in the year. And I mean, I think pushing stuff back is probably a good thing in a lot of cases, because I feel like whenever I do something, I want to do it right. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've said, okay, I'm going to release this video this Wednesday, and then ends up being 3 or 4 weeks later for the same reason. I don't, I want to make it the best that I can. It's not going to be perfect. I do not have a professional TV studio, never will. But yeah, I totally get that as well. Where do you normally get your fabrics? Do you order online? Do you go to Joann's? Do you go to a quilt store, like a first, like a, yeah, somewhere else? I get that word out.
I I go pretty much anywhere there is fabric. So I get stuff. I used to have a bunch of subscription boxes. And so one of them was with fabric, what is it? Fat Quarters. But I don't have that one anymore, because for a while, every collection that you've got every month contained the color peach, which I detest. So I had to stop that one. I still get pre-cut quilt shop. I get one from them, but then I also, Joann's, I usually get backings from, because
Okay.
it's cheaper to get them there.
Right.
And if I'm looking for something basic like the Kona solids, or things like blenders and that kind of thing, that's easy to find at Joann's. If I'm looking for something specific, I will try a local quilt shop. I have several in my area, and if they don't have it, then I will sometimes go onto the different quilt shop websites and look and see if, like, I was looking for something that had periwinkle in it,
Okay.
and so it wasn't easy to find in the quilt shop, so I just looked out for it online. So I go everywhere, including secondhand stores. I will look through there fabrics that people donate. So everywhere.
Excellent. I love that answer. I'm kind of the same way. Like I utilize Joann's for certain things. My local quilt shop is where I normally get my Kona because they actually stock the entire range.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I am very, very, very lucky for that, you know. So every time I've gone to Joann's looking for Kona, they never had the color I needed. So it's an extra 20 minutes to go to the quilt shop. But I figured, you know, I might as well just drive the 45 minutes there, and at least I know they have what I want or the next shade down. So
Right.
apparently finding solids at most quilt shops is not easy from what I've been, you know, from my experience. Not a lot of them carry it. So the fact that they have the whole thing is just an absolute blessing for me as well. Let's talk about your least favorite part of the quilting process.
Um, I have I have a couple. One is matching up corners. It drives me insane because I can never get those perfectly crisp little edges like you do. And that's my goal in life, is to get your little corners the way that you get them, so sharp and everything. And sometimes that's just not how what happens for me. But I'm also a wing it kind of girl. So that's one thing. The other thing is when you make a mistake and you have to go back and rip it out or, you know, set it aside, that it's always really frustrating. That part I don't like.
Gotcha. Yeah. I find with the corners, I'm not perfect. I've gotten a lot better. So thank you for that compliment. But I find practice is number one. Like I used to struggle with half square triangles and matching those corners up. Like I'd chop them off like nobody's business. You know, buying the quilt kits with all the different half square triangles helped me out immensely. And then two clips, wonder clips or pins at the intersections will become your new best friend. I do that at every like intersect, like what I call intersections. They probably have a proper name, but that's what I call them. I find it when I get ready to sew, I put clips or pins, depending on what I want to do, usually clips at each intersection. And then when I come up close, I try and just make sure it's lined up. And then most of the time it works out nicely. So that might be something for you to try as well. And that might help you out.
Okay.
We've asked about whether you quilt your own quilts or if you send them out, and you said you send them out. So we can pass that one now. What are some of your favorite notions or sewing tools?
I've been collecting different shapes of rulers, and this is one of my new favorites because I mean it's got 5 different sizes of the hexes. And so you know, I have a collection of, I don't know, so far only about 10 of these rulers, but I'm collecting them. Plus I had got this new one in one of the quilt subscription boxes that I had, and it's so great because it helps you know where to clip your corners off. So yeah, so you just already cut your piece like that, so you don't have to clip the corners once you've done it.
Oh wow, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's new. So
I was like, there has to be something out there to help me with that. I didn't realize it existed. So okay, well that might be something I have to go looking for soon. So thank you for showing us that. And it was called a dog ear clipper, right?
Yeah, it's a what's it called? Yeah, dog ear clipper.
Okay, yeah, I saw it on the thing there. Okay, so yeah, that might be something that I know I could use. Because yeah, I'm halfway decent at figuring out for myself, but yeah, there's a tool out there to help me. I might just cheat and look into getting that for myself as a little gift. Okay, so what is a tip or a hack that you'd like to share with us today? Like, is there something that you discovered that makes your sewing life easier? Is there some sort of tip that you can give us?
Well, yes. On the old Singer machines, it has several different lines for the to guide the size of your seam allowance. But on the new machine that I got, it's in metric. So I would say one of the things that you need to do is make sure you put a piece of tape or draw it with a Sharpie so you know exactly where your line is supposed to be, because otherwise it's just a guess and every one of your seams are going to come out a different size. Then the other thing is that the old Singer machines, you could just put your fabric through and your fabric wouldn't move. So I never used pins. So I'm now 60 and I never have used pins up until now when I got my new machine, because if I don't, then the fabric slides apart, plus the fact that it slides this way. So I can end up with like a 0 seam allowance by the end of the seam. So I have to use pins now. So on the newer machines, use pins or clips, because otherwise you aren't going to have a good seam.
Yeah, that's awesome. What I did with my machine, we'll go back to the seam allowance thing. I changed my seam allowance like on a dial on the machine. And then I actually found the perfect, for me, the 1/4 inch, and then I marked it with Sharpie. So that way, when I spin the wheel to get the seam allowance, I just wait till the 2 Sharpie marks line up. And then I know for sure my 1/4 inch is always a 1/4 inch. So
Right.
It's the same sort of things what you're talking about. But with my machine, I can just do it with the dial. So it works that way as well. But yeah, find your perfect seam allowance and then mark it somehow.
Yes.
That'll save you a lot of heartache in the long run. I think that's a wonderful tip there for us. Do you have any quilting channels that you watch and would recommend, either for entertainment or for learning purposes?
I like Becca, and you just had her on your show a while back.
Yes.
I love to watch her show. I watch, oh gosh, I can't remember the name of the channel. She's about my age, blonde. Can't remember. She has a shop, and I watch her. I also watch a lot of obscure ones. In addition to yours, I also watch you. I watch Tiffany's Quilting Life, and unfortunately, she just had a tragedy in the family, so she's going to take some time off. And so I watch a lot of people. I sometimes will just do a search, for paper piecing or whatever, and then watch whatever comes up, because I never know what I'm going to find.
Yeah, I always like going out and looking for new and different ones. I mean, I had my staples as well that I go out and watch. But yeah, it's always fun to see what's new out there, because you just never know what you're going to find. YouTube does a pretty good job at recommending people that you got to enjoy as well. Their algorithm does a wonderful job at that.
Yeah.
Do you belong to any sort of guild or online sewing group?
I do belong to a guild we don't have one in our town, but I live in the middle of nowhere. But you can drive an hour, and they have one every Thursday evening. But because I'm an attorney and I work, up until basically 5 o'clock, I can almost never go to it. And so I usually just talk to people afterwards, and they tell me what happened and everything. I don't belong to any online groups, at least not now. I used to a long time ago, but that was back when Yahoo groups was a thing. And, then I belonged to them then. But I know that when we move, we'll be hopefully closer to a bigger city, and I can go on a regular basis.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm kind of like you. I'm about 30 to 45 minutes away from any of the physical groups in my area, and I live in a larger city too. And really, the only one that I would like to go to is at the same time as my lives on Saturday mornings. So I'm actually helping start an online group myself. So we'll do it that way. So yeah, that's a lot of fun. Do you listen to anything in the background while you quilt? Do you watch TV? Do you listen to an audio book, or do you just prefer to silence and solitude?
I listen to audiobooks. And I do have, if it's something where I have to pay attention to the quilting really, closely, then I'll listen to something that I've already listened to before, because I don't have to know every word. Or listen to every word. So, but if it's something where I already know the pattern and everything's going fine, then I could listen to something more complex.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the exact same way. Like I sometimes will put on an audio book, sometimes it's a TV show that I've watched before, or I watch something on YouTube. It just depends. And sometimes if I really, really need to concentrate, I just need not to watch any or listen to anything. I just need to concentrate on the thing as well. So I totally get what you're saying there as well. What does your craft space look right now? Like, how does it look right now? I don't need pictures or videos, just a description. You can say it looks like a bomb hit it if you want. Like,
Well, okay. This room, well, this room looks like I kind of came in here and dumped all the bags on the floor of fabric. So this one is not, well, this isn't as bad as the old quilting room because I haven't finished cleaning it up. So it looks like a bomb hit that one. In here, it looks like I went on a big shopping spree and then just dumped all the bags on the floor.
there's nothing wrong with that, you know. At the end of the day, again, like it's your quilting time, you know. It's
Yeah.
So, all right. So, what about your silliest quilting mistake? What is the silliest mistake you have made that you can recall right this minute?
I do this all the time, and I don't know why I can't recognize it when I'm doing it. But about once every quilt, I will put the fabrics so that one is facing, instead of having them face each other, I will put it so one is facing the opposite direction. And so that when I start to put it together, there's one that I'm looking at the back of. And so I'm like, how did I do that again? I don't know why I can't. It always, there's one that's backwards.
The more and more I talk to you, Fee, I'm
Yeah.
thinking that you're like my long lost aunt or something because I do the exact same thing. But my excuse is that I work a lot with solids and a lot with batiks, neither of which has a right or a wrong side. So I guess when I have stuff where it really matters, I'm just like, and so, but yeah, I'm beginning to think you're my long lost aunt that I didn't know I had. So. All right, so we've talked about your first quilt, your favorite quilts already, I think. So have you entered a quilt show ever, or do you have any desire to?
I haven't so far, mostly because the quilts that I quilted myself, I did by hand,
Okay.
and I I know that when you quilt by hand, they're really, really picky about whether they can see any knots and stuff. And I've always been too afraid. So
Okay.
I haven't up until now. But once I finish that quilt that, is the one that nobody has ever seen anything like this before, it's probably going to take me about a year to make it. But once I get that one done, I definitely want to enter it if it comes out the way that I think it will.
Excellent. And it all depends on the show as well, from what I understand, is you have to sit there and read the rules. Sometimes you don't have to be the one that quilts it.
Mm,
So
okay.
some you have to really sit there and read the rules and regulations of whichever show you plan to enter. But if you're ever on the fence and you want to give it a go, I say give it a go, even if you just do it for so people can see it. Like
Yeah.
I submitted a quilt 2 years ago to the state fair, and I figured there was no way in earth I was going to get a ribbon, and I got third place. So, you
Oh,
know, yeah. So I mean, just try and if you want to try it and see what happens. There's yeah. Again, like if nothing else, the nice thing I like about them too is you get a report card from the judges,
oh,
and they
wow.
tell you what you did right, what you can improve on, that sort of thing there. So even if you don't walk away with a ribbon, you can get this report card back from them, and then you can use that to become a better quilter in the future as well. So
Oh, wow. Cool.
yeah,
I didn't know that.
so you're learning something new every day. And then roughly, just ballpark figure, how many quilts do you think you've made over the years?
I would say maybe 25 to 30.
Okay.
And that's because there for a while I wasn't quilting at all. I was doing other things. And like when I was in law school, there was way too much stress. I couldn't do anything. Basically, studying was the only thing I did.
I can
Um,
that.
yeah. So, and I have a lot of education. So a lot of the times when I've had like really difficult classes or things like that, then I wasn't quilting. So yeah. There was a burst in the beginning and there's a big burst now, but yeah, there's been about 20, I would say maybe 30. And then I have the 11 that are still not finished yet. And I have fabric for probably 100 more.
You and me both. Yeah, I mean, my completed quilts, I would say, yeah, maybe a little more, maybe closer to 40 or 50. Now, quilt tops, I think I can see about, yeah, 9 or 10 sitting there on my rack that need to be quilted. And yeah, we'll get that done at some point. All right, so let's just finish up real quick with a few fun, quick, easy questions for you.
Okay.
So most of these are going to be either ors. First one is, do you prefer solids or prints?
I think I prefer prints, but I do use a lot of solids. I like to mix them.
Excellent. Flying geese or half square triangles?
I think flying geese are a little bit easier for me. They're a little bit more forgiving. The half square triangles are a little harder.
Okay, and I see. I find the exact opposite, but I think that's because I've done more half square triangles than flying geese. I mean, I think I've done about, maybe a couple of dozen flying geese and 20 times that amount in half square triangles. Well, I was going to ask about traditional piecing or FPP, but you said you haven't done FPP, so we can skip that one. Machine binding or hand binding?
I do both. What I do is the front side, I use the front side of the quilt, I will machine attach the binding, and then I turn it over and I hand stitch the back side.
Well, so you're ready for a quilt show already. So
Yeah.
bold colors or muted neutrals?
For the most part, I have a lot of bold colors, but I've noticed that some of the new lines of fabric are coming out with some beautiful pastels that I'm just seriously just drooling over. So those are coming in soon.
Yep. So that might be a different answer when we ask you next time.
Yeah.
Machine quilting or hand quilting, we can skip because you send it out. So I'm assuming the person that does it by machine, although, you never know. Pin basting or spray basting?
Pin.
Okay,
I'm old school. I do the I like to spread them out on the floor and make the sandwich, and then I pin baste it.
Yeah, I gave up on the floor. I couldn't do that with my knees, so I just put it on. I find the longest table I can get, and just do it on a table, and that works out really, really nicely for me. Football or baseball?
Football.
Football.
Yeah, I'm not actually a big sports fan, and for me, if I watch a sport, it's going to be triathlon, so it's going to be Ironman, or I watch the Boston Marathon and that kind of thing. But I used to watch football with my brother all the time.
Nice. Yeah. Have you done any triathlons?
I have. I have not done an Ironman yet. I was going to do 2 this year, but I've got a lot of health problems right now, and we're trying to fix some of them so that I can do that. Right now I'm having some kind of problem with my ankle, and we have to figure that out before I can do
absolutely. Yeah, the longest one I've done is in the Olympics, Olympic distance.
Oh, wow. Where'd you do it?
Out here in Virginia.
Oh, cool. Was it an organized one, or did you just do it on your own?
It was organized. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I mean, the swim was not fun.
It never is.
Yeah, that's the part I dislike the most. If I could do more biathlon, is it biathlons?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. No, duathlons. Biathlon's the one with the skiing and the shooting.
Yeah.
I was like, I know I'm saying this wrong. Yeah, I would rather do those, but they're very few and far between out here. So, but yeah, I've done triathlons in the past, mostly sprints, but I did do one Olympic. I like the longer run and bike, but yeah, the longer swim I could do without. So
yeah, they're hard.
Yeah. All right, chocolate or candy?
I don't eat a lot of sugar because I don't like it. For me, I don't know if this happens to other people. My throat gets really gummy if I eat sugar. So I have a hard time swallowing it. So if it's going to be anything, I'll have chocolate, but I rarely do it.
All right, and then I'll skip the Coke and Pepsi one because you probably don't drink that either.
No, I don't. I do either iced tea or seltzer.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, so that pretty much concludes my interview. I loved having you on here. It was a lot of fun hanging out with you, and I'm hoping that people go over and check out your channel, because yeah, you are just getting started. So you've got, you will get better over time. But I think what you've got so far out there is really, really good. And I think my viewers will really appreciate and enjoy your content as well. So the channel name again is Pinfeathers and Gullyfluff. I'll put the description, the link in the description as well. So that way you can go over there and check it out. And yeah, just check out some of her videos. And if it's something that you like, consider subscribing. She would love to have you over there. She'd love to see your likes, your comments, and everything else. So is there anything that you'd like to say to the audience before we wrap this up today? Any events that you have coming up, any videos, anything cool?
Yes, I do have some videos coming up. I'm going to be, I like it when the channels are really interactive. So I'm going to be starting some new segments on mine as well, where, I can talk to people in person, not quite as big as yours. I'm not ready for that yet, but yeah, I'm going to be doing some more interactive stuff.
Excellent. And the viewers love that. That's one of the things I love about being a content creator here, is interacting with the audience. So and yeah, I think that's really, really good. They really seem to enjoy that. So yeah, definitely go over and check out Fee's channel. I really do think you'll like it. So do that. So yeah, I think we'll go ahead and say goodbye to everybody. I hope you all have a wonderful day. I'll have my podcast tomorrow morning as usual at 9 a.m. So I all hope you have a wonderful weekend. Happy sewing, and we'll see you all next video. Bye.